Need to check here. Do I have a live? Ooh, I am live. Okay, that's exciting. Yay! How's my sound? Hi Lana, how are you? Oh, I think you might like this one. So today's stream is kind of a bit goofy or out of my regular range, I guess. I'm good today. I've had a flu earlier this week, which was really not good. Wiped me out for a couple days. But a couple weeks ago, I reduced one of my medications that I had increased that I knew made me kind of sleepy and foggy, and yet I had increased it and stayed on for 8 months, not really realizing why I was so sleepy and foggy. So I reduced it a couple weeks ago, and it's definitely had a huge impact. So that's good. Feeling great. Only here for a little while. That's fine. I'm not sure how long this stream will really be anyway. I realized, just recently that I had placed an order for a custom vest for a custom cape thing, and I told the maker that I would design the preliminary design, and then I just kind of dropped off the map. So there's a vest paid for her that I need to send something to the maker, so yeah, and it's a little alarming to me how long I can go without realizing that something's even wrong. Like, never mind, how to fix it, just, yeah. So, what was I up to? Right, so, I'm gonna move this out to over here, maybe? Yeah. And there. And so, yeah, I need a really simplified, so the way that, here, I will start doodling as I talk. So the way that, the way that service dog gear works, it really depends on the handler's individual needs and preferences in terms of what. Most jurisdictions do not have a specific requirement about what a service dog wears, right? So where I live in Ontario, a service dog is not required to be wearing anything at all, but it's generally preferred that if you're going to be working with an assistance dog, a service dog, that you have that they're wearing something to identify them. It helps with access issues. So in Ontario, where I live, we have very, very loosely defined laws about what constitutes an assistance animal, a service animal, which I appreciate in some ways and really understand why that is, but also it can be an issue. So when I take Ember out, my dog is extremely fluffy. I will send some image links for anyone watching who has not seen what I call my service dog, because she's basically just a big ball of fluff. And so especially in the summer, but just really in general, because we mostly only have her in gear inside, I worry about her overheating. So one of my concerns is I want her to have gear. It needs to be quite prominent, quite obvious, because she's so fluffy that usually like even her vest or her harness gets covered in fluff, especially if you're viewing her from the front. And then, especially in the summer, I get worried about her overheating. A lot of gear can be quite heavy, especially if it's, you know, meant to be very visible. Where did I put my stream thing? That's not it. That's not it, and that's not it. Where'd it go? There we go. No, that is not it either. In here somewhere? No, not that. Hello? This? Where's my stream? Where's my stream? That's not my stream. That's not my stream. Still not my stream. Too many tabs open. Way too many tabs open. Where did my stream go? Hello, hello. I am live. Where's my live? There's my live. Okay. Are you painting a puppy today? Well, yes. So I decided that it would be fun to have some custom gear. So actually, I'm gonna go get some of Ember's current gear just to show. So what Ember wears most frequently? Hi, Gobbler. Hi, Daria. Yeah, sorry, I really should start streams quite a bit earlier. I had a bit of a biological emergency. So, as I was discussing, I have a service dog. She wears gear when we're out, when she's on duty, so that she's identified. So an assistance dog. So she wears, the most common setup she has is something like this that has a harness that just says, it as wide as I can get it, that says service dog, usually across the front, or is otherwise really identifiable as a service harness. And then she's got this, which is called a cape. This one can actually be converted to a vest as well, so she can wear just this on its own. There's an extra loop here. Usually I have a handle attached, so when she wears her gear, I actually have her her leash attached to her collar, and she walks on her collar because she also has sport harnesses, so that when we're on a walk she can pull a little bit. It's not a problem. When she's on duty, she knows that she's not supposed to feel any pressure on her collar. But then if I have a migraine or I get otherwise dizzy and disoriented, she is trained to take me to a named place or given a direction, and she'll do, it's a sort of home adapted version of a task called forward momentum pulling, where she will walk beside me, apply a light tension, and basically guide me. So it's very light guide work. She doesn't understand traffic signals and stuff, so she knows to sit at street corners, but she doesn't understand them properly, so she sits, then I have to look. I do have my vision. Anyway, so she will have a handle attached to her harness, but usually she's on her leash, which isn't attached to this setup at all. Her gear, in most cases, is just there to identify her. Because she doesn't look like your standard service dog, like she's not a lab or a golden retriever or a poodle, she doesn't look like something like a guide dog that came out of a program. She doesn't behave like a guide dog that came out of a program. She's non-disruptive. She walks beside me. She doesn't, you know, go sniff into aisles or pull ahead or bark at people, but she's not a guide dog. She's not entirely focused on what's around her. She can look around as long as she's not pulling or being disruptive. I don't care. It's not a problem for me. Good night, Paulo. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be a short stream on this side too. Sorry, I just, yeah, was not able to start when I wanted to start. So, anyway, so this is Ember's current gear. I got this secondhand, so it is like a custom-made thing, but it's secondhand. I like this a lot, but it is heavy vinyl. So that's a real problem in the summer because I have a very fluffy dog. I want to give her something really lightweight that's not going to overheat her. So that's that. I do have a few other options. You can get more built up harness situations like this one, which currently has a handle. Again, I don't like this because it's heavy leather. And has, you know, shearling and stuff on it. It's a bit much for her. It's also the setup, like it's got a cross back, which is the right shape. My dog is quite narrow but tall. So this sits nicely over her shoulders, but because these straps are so thin, when I use the handle here, it folds them out of the way. So I don't love how this one is built. Again, it was secondhand. I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do. This one is a very simple, generic thing that's just got some Velcro back patches on it. Anyway, I found a maker who does embroidery, custom embroidery vests on mesh late last year. She had a bit of a wait list, but then also I wanted to work on the design myself because I'm an artist, and she was a big fan of that. She really liked it. We talked about a few ideas, and then I was going to go off and do my little design, and then life happened, and I haven't done that yet, so I'm going to do this now and send it back to her. That is totally fine. I decided to do today's kind of a fun sort of off-topic stream, I guess. A little bit off-topic. I've been a little bit curious about, like, a lot of these things. I have, you know, obviously a life, interests beyond what is beyond the focus of my channel, and I've been wondering how much I should put into my channel as far as these other things. So anyway, that's Ember's gear, and so I am designing what's going to be just a basic vest here. So it's going to buckle around here, and then it's going to attach to a harness that goes over Ember's shoulders, like so. And so I just need to design this. So what that looks like is you have three panels, one on each side and one in the middle. I believe each one ends up being something like 15 or 20 centimeters by something. And then I can decide I need some simple writing on it. And then I also wanted to do some custom graphics. And so the fun thing about this is Ember has a few little quirks about her. One of them is that she has built-in, like, goggles on her face. Is there a good way for me to show? I can, I guess, leave images. Let's see. Maybe I'll just send images to the Discord of my silly dog. Hi, Mom. I'm doodling a vest for the little criminal. Anyway, so I thought it would be fun to do a little cartoon version of her with her little bandit mask. So she's got little markings on her face, so she's half Malamute and half Border Collie. And Malamutes frequently have markings above their eyes. So you have dog eyes, dog nose, And you'll have the northern dogs frequently have markings above their eyes, like so, like sort of eyebrow markings, and then you have their ears here. And so you'll have like a darker section right here, and a darker section right here. And then you have an eye, like so, and like so, and like so. And then she's also half border collie, so then they'll have this darker section here, and then, you know, it lightens up, whatever, you end up with some markings here. But then you have border collies that have sort of the opposite thing, where they frequently have stuff that runs under their eyes. And Ember has the white sort of gap in the middle, so she looks like she's wearing spectacles, but she also has both underneath and above, she has her little spectacle markings, like so. Put them down on one side, like this. And then big fluffs everywhere. She's got little raccoon markings. She looks like she's wearing a bandit mask. It's hilarious. And so I thought that it would be fun, you know, since she has some professional gear. And I'm getting her mesh largely so that this summer when we're traveling, and we're going to be going up north, we're going to be in provincial parks and stuff, where she does need to be in her gear. Well, she needs to be a service dog to be allowed into certain areas, basically. But also, you know, it's not really the most formal of venues. I thought it would be fun to design some gear. Is it the first on Instagram? Sorry. What do you mean the first on Instagram? So I linked to my Instagram, to my pet's Instagram account. I used one of the images for the cover on this live stream. I don't know that these images necessarily show, like the ones in the Instagram necessarily show her little bandit mask the best, but there's one here. I will put it in here. Paste. No, not that. What did I do? What did I do? Here. Upload? Upload. Recent. That one? That one kind of shows it. So I thought it would be fun to design some little like character things and have a vest that's got some playful wording on it, like partner in crime. And service sidekick. So I'll still have, I want to keep it fairly, fairly minimal and professional, but then I will have a few little silly dog characters with the silly bandit mask. You know, like a little smiling dog here. Say, okay, well, whatever. It's like just her face, you know, just have the partner in crime. Or something, whatever. On my very, very rough little sketch. Over there, let's see. It was in some ways obvious when she was really young. It was most obvious, and then now, like in person, sometimes you'll get really obvious moments where it's like, oh, she really does have a little bandit mask. But she went through a phase when she was a few months old where it was just super, super pronounced. And it has gotten a little bit less contrasted, which is probably good because she draws a lot of attention when we're out, which we don't necessarily want her to do. So here is another picture of Ember as a puppy. I'll take a screenshot and do this one, yeah, like right here. Download. I'll send that to my and then I might actually just see if I have some more on my phone, because, you know, I take a lot of pictures of my dog, obviously. Anyway, these are all on... Wait, am I just sending these all to, like, somebody else's? Did I... No, that's my server. Oh, I just haven't sent them. Okay, here, if I send that, there we go. And then... Camera? No, no. Files? Files. So here's a dog helping us model a washroom in construction. It's actually more built than that now, but yeah, over here, photos, camera. Here's a happy girl. There. Those are some pictures. Anyway, so yeah, those are some of my images there. If I move this into its own tab, and I go here, and back to my live, and have this open there, and open here, yep. And I can just move this out of the way. Anyway, so the challenge here is I need to make some things with very limited colors, like very simplified, because they are just going to be embroidered on mesh. So if I have, so basically, you know, like I should have a limited number of colors. It doesn't need to be like 2 colors or 3 colors. Like, she's flexible about how many colors it is, but I can't just be like, oh, this is going to be, you know, an even gradient. I'm going to have 200 colors in it, because that makes embroidery pretty difficult. So it's better if I have some blocks of color. It'll read easier if it's simpler. So basically I just need to design like a cartoon version of my dog, and then decide how much sass I want to include in the sass and personality I want to include in the writing on the vest, because I do plan to have her wearing this when I fly back from Thunder Bay. So it's a balance between what she's going to be, what is, you know, amusing to me and fun, versus what's going to cause me trouble if I try to take it on an airplane. Bye, Gabor. So I think I can simplify down to just a few colors where I have, you know, black for the darkest areas, and then choose like a brownish gray for some of the mid-tone areas, and then just have, you know, some pink and some brown for her, some pink and some like hazel for her eyes and what have you. This marker is probably a little bit darker than I want it to be, and a little bit grayer, but it's a start. And then I have, yeah, like I really need, sorry, I need to find another gray to use because that is way too dark. I had a much lighter pigment marker here somewhere, and then I used it for something. I think I may have taken it sketching somewhere. I haven't been able to find it, and it's bothering me. Okay, maybe if I use, maybe if I use a polychromos pencil, yeah, that'll work. Okay, let's try that. Let's try this. And do I want to work on these, or do I want a sketchbook for this operation? I do have a sketchbook flying around. Where did I? Nope, I'm just going to keep on using regular printer paper. I think because I'm just going to use these. And then I can paste them into, I have sketchbooks that have spots available. Oh yeah, that was definitely just bleeding right through. Okay, try again here. So if I have my so if I just use this to make my whole dog shape, da 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 da, big wet nosy, big wet nosy. So Ember has a funny little habit that we've never seen in other dogs. And so if you have a dog who does this, I want to hear from you, because people generally don't believe me when I tell them until they see my dog do it. So Ember will suck water up into her snoot like an elephant, and she'll walk around with it for minutes, up to a half hour or so. And then she'll deposit snoot water somewhere. She'll just blow out her nose and deposit water everywhere. This was a real problem when she was a teeny tiny puppy, because she had a really teeny tiny bladder. Yeah, like a half hour. Through her mouth, I suppose. Like she'll just like be sitting there panting, and then she'll just blow out her nose and like a cup of water comes out. Like she's got quite a volume in there. It's like an elephant. She just holds it in her nose. Okay, I'm gonna get some more water because I am thirsty. Her sinuses. I've never heard of this before. Yeah, so I have a bunch of friends with dogs, and like there's a lot of things that individual dogs will do, right? Like Ember really likes licking feet. She really likes licking feet. It's a thing. It's a little bit quirky, but she's not the only dog who likes licking feet. She'll take treats and she'll hide them somewhere and save them for later and then go and find them. It's a quirk. But it's kind of a dog quirk. Like, a lot of dogs will do this to some extent. It's not completely weird. But the snoot water thing, like, it was the first time I'd ever seen it, but I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. But, like, yeah, all my friends with dogs, like, I'll tell them, I'll warn them. You know, she's gonna deposit water all over your house. Like, it's not peeing, it's snoot water. They're like, what are you talking about snoot water? When she was tiny, it was actually like, she would suck up water into her snoot, but she also had a tiny bladder, so she'd leak water out both ends, and so you'd be walking up the stairs and there's a puddle of water, like, on a step, and like, okay, well, I know that came from a dog, but, you know, which end of the dog? Now it's, you know, she doesn't pee inside, she's a dog, she's trained, but she does carry water around in her snoot. She doesn't do it so much at home anymore, but for some reason when we go out and we're out with other, like we're out at a friend's house with other dogs, she will just like hang around. She'll be sitting on the couch and then suddenly this puddle appears in front of the couch and somebody's like, what's the puddle in front of the couch? And you'd look at Ember and there's just water dripping off of her snoot. Like an elephant. She's a little weirdo. She's my little weirdo. Don't have a normal dog, just this weird one. Okay, so the image I'm using right now is, I believe, the last one that I've left in the general chat in Discord. If somebody else wants to do some sketching of my dog along with me, that is fine. If you'd like to sketch your own creature, that is also fine. I want to do her big happy smile. Big happy smile. some are just a bit special. I mean, like, every dog has their things, right? But, yeah, I definitely got a weird one. I definitely got a weird one. On Monday, we're going to a birthday party for one of her friends. So my dog's friend, my dog's friend, yes, but also my friend's dog. So I have 3 friends who share custody of a dog. 2 of them are a couple. The last one is a former roommate. So there was a chain, somebody got a dog, and then the roommate adopted them, and then the roommate got a new roommate, whatever. It's a whole thing. But the dog is turning 16. Molly. And Molly is a German Shepherd Border Collie mix, who is just the sweetest thing. He's 16 years old. We're going to a birthday party for a dog on So I think I might end up doing a few rounds of this where I simplify and simplify and simplify and simplify. Let's see. What other pencils do I have handy? Okay, so my problem here seems to be, my dog looks like a cartoon, but I am struggling to like play that up without making her look like not a dog. I think that's my issue here. It's interesting. I may have to take some time to learn how to not take things so literally. Amber, I'm drawing you. Drawing your silly face. You use watercolor? Usually I use watercolor. Most of my work is in watercolor. Today I am playing with pencils because I'm doing something different. So this is a design for a service dog vest. It's going to be embroidered on mesh, so I am trying to keep really, really even colors, so I'm just trying to work in a very limited selection of pen and pencils, because then I won't have the color variation that is common with watercolor work. So I'm doing this, and then I'll probably end up doing several versions, basically. To, you know, make it simpler and a little bit more cartoony. Have you used Old Holland brand of watercolor? Yes, I have. Not extensively, but do I have a video up on it? I don't have a video. I do have one video, but it's only got a very limited selection. I do have a somewhat larger selection of Old Holland watercolors that Dan sent me that I don't think I've made a video out of. I've had them for a couple of years, so I could make a video using those. I find Old Holland watercolors have a sort of distinctive texture to them, I guess, which I don't entirely enjoy. Their Caribbean blue is beautiful. Caribbean blue is PB16. Yes, I do. Okay, yeah. What is the texture? They're kind of, I think it's because they use rabbit skin glue, so it also comes with a smell, but it's a, they tend to lift easily. And I find when you're trying to apply a wash, especially like if you're layering, they tend to sort of push around, like it's difficult to get a clean wash. They definitely smell. It's rabbit skin glue. But I think it's, yeah, I used them after the sinus surgery when I had no sense of smell. Yeah, so PB16, I think I do have Caribbean blue, and I do really like the hue of it. I think it is a little bit, it's got a less deep mass tone than most PB16. In some ways it behaves more like a PB17. Like it's in some ways closer to a non-granulating manganese blue, if I recall. But again, I did my original Old Holland test like 5 years ago, and then Dan had quite a set of Old Holland watercolors and said, you know, you'll feel, because I think I only had 4, right? So Dan sent me some more to get a more balanced view of the brand, which I really appreciated, and I did, you know, play with them a little bit. So yes, some of what I didn't like in just the original set, it does improve with, you know, having a wider selection. But there definitely is, there's like a, I think it's just because of the rabbit skin glue and the way that they lift that makes, it creates a different texture as you're painting, and it's, if you try to mix it with other brands, you know, it's noticeable. In the same way as you might have different pigments have different qualities, it's like all of the Old Holland pigments have a little bit more of that, what you might see in like a non-staining, super granulating color, where if you try to glaze it or apply it in a clean wash, it tends to sort of get pushed around. How about Nicolazzo Yellow? Have you played with it? Oh, Nicolazzo Yellow is my absolute favorite pigment in the whole wide world. You have come to the right place. If you want a whole a whole channel where every video goes on about how Nicolazzo Yellow is the best color, yeah, I still have the palette from Dan, and so maybe I should, in my, oh man, I have so many videos to make. So many videos to make. It makes bright green with cobalt blue. Yes, it makes very bright greens in general. So it looks, in mass tone, it is frequently, including by some paint companies, described as a orangey or warm yellow. It is not. It is absolutely not. It is a middle yellow, slightly greenish in all cases, including the ones that are more orangey. In mass tone, it can, depending on the brand, appear sort of golden orange. That's because it's so transparent. So the more middle yellows will tend to skew a little bit warmer in mass tone, but Nicolazo yellow mixes as a lemon yellow, and it makes very, very, very bright greens, somewhat muted oranges. Thank you for the ads, Lana. I'm appreciating this this advertising here. Yes, I love Nicolazo. I love how transparent it is. This is definitely the Nicolazo fangirl channel here. I'm going to be putting out a video in the near-ish future about my, what I call the yellow problem. The issue with yellow pigments and painting yellows, and yeah, yellows are a challenge. Largely because as humans we don't see them very well. We don't have a lot of receptors in our eyes to see yellow. We basically, we see in red, green, blue, and so, yeah, the gap where we see yellow is, in between green and red. So it's this huge section of the spectrum that's just missing. And so when we have it, we only have a very narrow band where our red and green receptors cross, and that's where we see yellow. But it's why we can't see, for example, we can see dark blue, but we can't see dark yellow. Dark yellow we just see as brown. It makes it challenging for us to paint yellow shadows because we literally just don't perceive them as well, so it's difficult for us to sort of, without seeing it, figure out how to make that shade. Yeah, so I nerd out about pigments a lot. That's my thing. I paint, I'm a natural science illustrator. I nerd out about the natural world, and I try to use my art to learn about and share what I learn about the natural world, plants, animals, fungi. I paint a lot of crusty twigs. Share that passion and what I learn with the world. I also, in the process, tend to nerd out a lot about the process of art, color theory, pigments, stuff like that. So on this channel, I share what I'm doing painting-wise. I share painting techniques and pigment information. I did get a question about Nicolazo Yellow. Isn't that amazing? Somebody asked me if I'd ever tried the pigment. And guess what? I have. Actually, I got asked about PB16 first, which is also one of my favorite pigments. Although it's less, you know what, I think part of why I rant about Nicolazo Yellow, why I'm such a fan there, and I'm maybe less noisy about things like PB16, is that I do like PB16. It's usually my choice for a primary cyan. But if I have a palette in front of me that has PB15-3, the most common primary cyan color, that's not a problem for me in a way that having other yellows is just a disappointment after you've tried Nicolazo Yellow. Well, it's not apparent on first sight how nerdy everyone here is. That is true. I was just, I was reflecting on that. I saw a YouTube short. So my YouTube is interesting. I do have, the algorithm has me down. I do have art content for sure, but I also, because my art and my life intersects a lot with gardening, and so I'll watch gardening and homesteading content. I'm very urban. I'm not starting a farm, but I do get farming content as a, fun thing to watch. And so there was a short that popped up for me from a homesteader creator who, this is how good the algorithm is. If you're here, you probably, have a garden that you're trying to grow your food for the year in, and you probably have a cast iron pan, whatever, things like that. And I was thinking about that, and you know what, I could probably typecast my viewers, which is, that's a good thing. It's, I used to actually work in a past life. In one of many past lives, I worked in user experience. One of the things that you do for designing an interface, any kind of product, is you want to know who your customer is, who your user is. And so with my art, I did sort of start the other way, where I started with what I want to create, what I want to paint, and I'll find what who my user is. And that's definitely a harder way to do things. But over time I've realized that I do have, I have a customer for who buys my art, both in a individual commission level or buying at a market, as well as in a commercial setting. Like there's profiles of the sorts of people or companies who come to me for my product, as in the finished painting, but then there's a separate customer who is the people who take classes with me or follow me on YouTube or are on my Discord channel, and those are definitely, I have found the nerds. I found the nerds for all sorts of little, sub things, and I think everyone has their own little sub interest that might be a little bit different than mine, but it's sort of, it's encouraged me in, I've been thinking about how, like, as I come back to YouTube, I've been away for a while, how I want to like what I might want to change about my channel and things I do or don't want to include. So it's always been a bit of a question for me how much of the rest of my life I want to include on this channel, like how much non-watercolor stuff, how much non-art stuff do I want to put on this channel. I mean, there's a lot of other interesting stuff about my life. I'm a disabled creator. I have a service dog. Those are things that, there are successful channels that are based on just that. And while I don't really want to make my life about my disability, I think that there's a degree to which it is so impactful on my own experience of the world that I kind of have to. At least touch on it a bit, like it's difficult because I want to connect with people, and like I can't really connect with people on any kind of level if I'm keeping some of the biggest things about me away, if that makes sense. Definitely create for an audience. It's what we learned in uni too, writing for an audience. I use Yinmin Blue for skies. That's really cool. I have Yinmin Blue is a pigment I tried once. I think I got, do I have the Schminke? No, I think I only got the Core. When Core released a special edition, like Core Labs released Yinmin Blue, I got a tube of Yinmin Blue. And I've used it in one or two paintings, but mostly I just, I swatched it. I haven't really delved into it. I like having a few very granulating colors in my palette. I have so many blues that I like that adding another blue, even just for granulation, didn't really ever seem like the clearest, best choice for me. I'm a bit precious about it because of the cost. Yes. Yes, yeah. So I had to special order it from, like, I got an email from Core Labs because, I don't know, because I'd gotten in touch with them about something. And I think actually a friend of mine ordered 3 for, like 3 different artists in town and then distributed them amongst us. So it was not, you know, we didn't have to pay as much for shipping. Because shipping wasn't one of the big charges there. Like, it was, you know, it was a little tube and not cheap, but shipping also added a lot to the expense of that. Hi, Megan. You love granulating watercolors. I like granulating watercolors too. You know what? That is a thing that sort of switched on for me in about 2018. I started playing with some granulating watercolors in my daily leaf project and could really get the idea, but I can narrow it down to the day when it became like really clear to me. I have this sketchbook that I'll be doing a tour of in a bit, but I'd made myself a little palette. I went to a conference in Australia and I included a potter's pink, and then I painted some gum leaves in Australia, and it was this painting, and then every painting after was like, I use now potter's pink in everything. And I've since done a few commissions where, like, I've used lunar black and other very heavily granulating colors. It's sort of switched on for me, like, until some point I was just really, I struggled to, like, loosen up enough to just accept texture that I hadn't created, right? The texture that was, like, up to the paint. And then I had a little awakening, and now I use a lot of granulating watercolors. I tend to use non-granulating watercolors to mix my basic colors, and then I also have granulating watercolors that I either mix into those or apply on top or in selected areas to create texture. But at this point, most of my work has quite a bit of granulation in it. It's something that I really enjoy. Thank you. Potter's Pink is great. Yes, yeah, so Potter's Pink is such an interesting thing because when I first saw Potter's Pink, it was like a hard no. Never, I don't like, you know, pastels, I don't like pinks. No, not gonna do it. It's heavily granulating on top. It's hard to re-wet. Absolutely not, never gonna use this paint. And at this point, it is in every single one of my palettes. I just find it's really useful for adding granulation to all sorts of different colors. I really like the Potter's Pink from Roman Schmal Aquarius. It has a unique set of two properties. So some Potter's Pinks are more pink and some are more of a deeper reddish tone. I like the more pink ones. Like Winsor Newton's Potter's Pink is very pink. However, Winsor Newton's Potter's Pink is extremely hard to re-wet. So if I'm going to be using it in a portable palette dry, it's not really doable. Roman Schmal Aquarius, all of their paints are very easy to re-wet, but Potter's Pink in particular has the neat property that, unlike, say, Schmincke's Potter's Pink, which is also easy to re-wet, it is very pink. It's not this more reddish tone, so. What on earth is that poopy weird pink, and whatever shall I do with it? Something like that, yeah. Yeah, it's like one of these learning experiences, like maybe don't judge, don't knock it before you've tried it. There's a few things that, you know, I have really changed over time, in my opinion of. That as a beginner artist, I was like, I would never do this, would never, whatever. Anyway, I do have a lot of painting content, some of it which is already filmed, left to edit and put up on this channel, so this is all going to be kind of gradual, but I have some painting stuff, but I also am going to start filming a little bit of gardening and disability-related content, because I think it adds a lot of context to what I do, why I do it, how I do it. I have the Daniel Smith Potter's Pink. It is hard on re-wetting as well and goes on thin, but very pretty. When I began painting 8 years ago, I just chose the strongest color around the outside of the color wheel. Yes, so that is definitely a thing that I did for a while. And it definitely gives you a lot of flexibility if you're going to have a very limited palette. You can always mute things down. But, you know, the effect does not work in reverse. However, I think that it's also useful to have some of those colors that are already muted, because even though you can mute things down, having things pre-muted really does change how you're likely to work with them. You know, if you're working with a cyan, magenta, yellow, you are most likely going to have a painting that has a lot of little pops of bright cyan and bright magenta and bright yellow. Like, you could make something super muted by mixing them all together, but you're probably not going to always mix them all together. So you'll tend to have something that's, you know, got the saturation turned way up, that's out at the brightest ends of the color wheel. And so having paints that make it a little bit easier, a little bit more intuitive to create more muted subjects is, I think, a really useful, like, next step. Once you got the basics, you know, I think that it makes sense if you're only going to buy 3 paints, you know, make it cyan, magenta, yellow. Absolutely. And if you're only going to buy 6 paints, make 3 of them cyan, magenta, yellow, and then make the other 3, or at least 2 of the other 3, something else that's out on the bright end of the color wheel, because, again, you can always make things more muted. So consider one of the complements for one of those 3. But it, at this point, I'm definitely not lacking for paint by any means. I think that that is a thing that a lot of people here can agree with. I released a palette and got a lot of comments like, ooh, I want it, but I already have all of these paints, which, like, if you already have all the paints, there's no, definitely don't need to buy another palette just because it's got my name on it, right? I feel like this is a little less comic-y than I was really initially planning for. So I'm probably going to need to do a few runs of this. Are the Romanchmal paints only in pan form? For the time being, yes. I cannot wait for them to be released in pan form, or sorry, in tube form, because I generally prefer to buy watercolors in tubes. And it's really, like, one of the only things that's keeping me at this point from becoming completely book brand loyal. Which is wild to say. There's so many things that are wild to say. I do think that all watercolor brands, all professional watercolor brands, can be used pretty much interchangeably. Like, including, you know, so there's some outliers, like Old Holland, where it's like, this one actually genuinely behaves a little bit differently. But, like, you could still mix them with other paints. It's not, you're just going to have certain paints that have a little bit more of a texture, in the same way as if you have, you know, granulating and non-granulating paints in the same palette. It's not, I'm certainly not going to throw away any other paints from other brands. I do use my paints from various brands more or less interchangeably. Calculate mixes geometry on a color wheel. Yeah, it's tough because, you know, there's stronger mixes and stronger mixing pigments and lower mixing pigments and granulation, and I do think that probably with, especially with acrylic and to some degree with oil, I think that watercolor does showcase pigment properties and sort of exaggerate them more so than other paint media. So it would make sense to me that not only because core is primarily, you know, first and foremost, Golden is a acrylic paint maker, not a you know, they're relatively new to the watercolor game, and I doubt that it's their main business, because they're sort of the name in acrylics and they have an established oil line, both of which are have been around much longer than their watercolor offerings. Is handprint still around? I took down my pigment spreadsheet. I mean, sorry, I didn't take it down. It still exists. I just took down the main link from my website. Because Ocho has done the same thing but much better. And I'm not interested in duplicating friends' work, basically. But I know that handprint was still quite a useful thing, even though it hadn't been updated since 2012, you know, as of a few years ago. But to be honest, I haven't really been following most of these things. I have too many paints is really the, like, try to focus on painting. I think that it is still around, but unchanged for many years. I'm assuming that things like Lana's website and Otto's website that are much more active now have probably diverted a lot of handprint traffic. Maybe there are a few other databases now. There's also a Russian one. You can absolutely link them. Yes, please do. In fact, Lana, I am redoing my website. And by I am redoing my website, I actually mean my assistant is redoing my website. We're porting all of my blog content to the Shopify site right now. So bit of background. I've had a WordPress site forever. I hadn't touched it for many years. And then I wanted to, for a while I had an Etsy shop that I'd open every so often. And then I closed my Etsy shop because with chronic illness, I could not manage fulfillment. I was being really bad about fulfillment. So I wanted to have somebody else do fulfillment before I was selling small items. I do have someone else doing fulfillment now. And then I also wanted to, I was also looking at my analytics on Etsy. And at the time when I closed my Etsy shop, the majority of my Etsy hits weren't from the Etsy front page or Etsy search terms that would bring me to my art. My top search term was my own name. And I figured if people are searching me based on my own name, then I'm better off having my own shop. I don't need to be paying into Etsy and tied into their ecosystem for people to search my name. People can search my name on Google. And then I closed it down, and it stayed closed for a number of years because I had a major chronic health collapse. And I have been dealing with that over the past several months, have gotten a lot better. And I've got the help I need, the support I need to be running a shop again. I do have a shop now set up on my website, but it's a pain because I just tried to build into my own WordPress site without really doing a huge amount of research. I was like, oh, okay, Shopify. Shopify seems like one of the biggest e-commerce providers. Let's use Shopify. Shopify integration into WordPress is a disaster. It's so bad. And it's super expensive because you have to pay for a full Shopify plan and your WordPress hosting and an integration point. So you're paying 3 times. And it's so bad. It's so buggy. It's so terrible. So we looked into it, and it seems like the easiest way for me to make my website functional, not terrible, is to actually port. So Shopify has their own website builder. And basically I already have a Shopify site. It's just hosted on a Shopify URL. And so we're moving all of the blog stuff, we're copying it into Shopify, creating a website on Shopify, and then we'll switch the domain. So right now it is possible that if you're searching my stuff, you'll end up seeing the Shopify site instead of the regular site. They are both me. They are both, in fact, the same website. Just one of them is the original WordPress. One of them is the Shopify integration that will eventually have yeah. Yes, so back in, what was it, like 2018, I put together just a Google spreadsheet of all the pigments used in watercolor, and then went through the lists from each paint manufacturer and plugged in where the colors, like what each of their color, what each of the single pigment colors they offered, which pigment they were made for. Where there were multiples, I tried to match by hue, roughly. So, you know, if there were 3 versions of PB 28 from one brand, I would try to match them so that each of the, you know, oh, okay, the most reddish one, darkest one is here, the whatever. And I had some notion of, you know, this is a starting point, and really what we need to do is have it be a searchable database where if you search a pigment, like if you search a specific paint, it pops up, here's the paint, here's a swatch, here's the pigment it's made with, and here are all the other companies that make paints with this pigment. But I never got around to that, and then Otto did. So Otokano has that product that I thought I might want to make on her website. There's no reason for people to use my out-of-date spreadsheet when there is a much better product available. And I'm not going to try to compete. I'm not going to try to, oh yeah, I'm going to make the same thing that she made. Why? It's available. Just use hers. Hi, Jill. So after I come off of this live stream, I need to send an email to all of y'all who ordered my palette, which was supposed to ship today, but we've been having, well, I mean, ideally it would have shipped a few days ago, and then ideally it would have shipped today. We've had some delays with our packaging, our the packaging sleeve for the palette. I have a local printer who I've worked with a bunch, but the guy who used to do the art printing is no longer there. And yeah, so whereas it used to be a like send them a file and then 2 hours later they have your prints come pick them up, that is not the case anymore apparently. Now it's a send them the file and then there's a week-long back and forth where they send you a quote and whatever, and then they ask for the file in a different format, and then you call them to pay and they've lost your invoice and don't have access to their system. So Monday's a holiday. We're gonna go pick it up on Tuesday. For better or for worse, it's going to be mailed on Tuesday. Bye, Megan. No, I'm frustrated at myself because I put out the palettes and was pretty sure, like, yeah, I'm gonna get these orders and then I'll just set up the, you know, the wrapper thing, send it out to Print Integrity. I know that Paul doesn't work anymore, but surely they're still easy to work with. And then I had some minor updates, some minor delays, but not like this, because I sent them out on Monday morning. And it's been a back and forth of just unreal. Anyway, I would have made it clearer, you know, oh, okay, this is a pre-order, they'll be ready, whatever, if I knew that this was going to be a delay. But having worked with these people before, it was never like, they were always so nice to work with. This is an adorable rendition of Ember. Thank you. Yes. It's a little bit more of a realistic take than I had really anticipated, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Because I kind of wanted to do a little comic-y thing. Really play up her little bandit eyes there. So we're making a new service dog cape for her because this one's vinyl and really heavy. And it would be nice. I mean, I'm kind of pushing it close, but next month we are going ultimately to a residency up on Lake Superior on Porphyria Island, which is something that we did last year. We're going back this year for a longer stay, and then flying back. But on the way there, we're actually going to drive there with my assistant and stop by at a bunch of provincial and federal parks. Often certain areas of the park or campsites don't allow pet dogs, so the fact that she is a service dog is relevant, but I don't want her wearing heavy gear while out hiking in the summer like that. So actually several months ago I had spoken to a gear maker who makes mesh vests, who was quite happy to work with me to do an embroidered mesh vest with my own custom design on it, and I thought I could do a little fun thing where I'd have, where did I put, I was starting this out, you know, play up the little, she's a little criminal, with a little bandit mask. Oh, she's my partner in crime, she's my service sidekick. And then have some little cartoony renditions of her embroidered on. I'm concerned that this, what I've done here, is quite a bit too much, so I'll probably just have to go for a couple rounds of copy and simplify and copy and simplify and copy and exaggerate and etc. I am enjoying this little doodle. It is a pretty little doodle, even if it's not exactly what I'm going to use for the vest thing. if I find a brown somewhere, like, need some more ambery brown. You know what? Maybe I actually use a watercolor for that. Yeah, I'll actually use a watercolor for that. Like so. There's my dog. What time is it? Okay, I think I'm actually gonna end this here. It's been a good little while. That was fun. Thank you everyone for joining. And I'll see you in the next one. I'll keep you updated on what I'm doing with this. But I have a dog who's now camped at my door. Yes, hi, you. Do I owe you a walkies? Yes? Yeah, we were just talking about you. Hello. Okay, bye everyone. And I will turn this off and